Now we're going to start by removing the blade with a 14mm wrench. We're going to use a little hammer. I'm going to hold it down here with my finger and tap on it with a hammer just to break it loose, so I don't have to take a chance in the wrench sliding and cutting my hands on the blades, even though that is the back side of the blade here, so it's not really sharp. Still better to be safe. The other thing, once we get the blade off, we'll sharpen it. We'll show you how. And we're going to get my little putty knife out and scrape all the grass off the underside of the deck as well. It's a plastic deck on these, so you don't have to worry about the moisture buildup and the grass underneath it causing rust and damage to the metal. But it's a good idea just to clean it out every few times you use it to make sure that your grass clippings are flowing in the proper pattern and taking full advantage of the engineering designs for the mulching and bagging functions on these mowers. So it's always a good idea to keep that clear and clean. Sharpening blades on a mower doesn't have to be difficult. All you need is a little balancer like this that's just a few dollars at your local farm or lawnmower supply shop or online. You just set your blade on top through the center hole and just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be that perfect that way. As long as it's really close, you'll be good to go. I use just a plain wheel grinder, 6.5-inch bench grinder, to balance my blades with. If the grass clippings are like really thickly build up on them, I'll take a wire brush and clean them off. This particular one here doesn't look like it has too much build up. I'll just use the wheel here to sharpen it and grind down the bigger spots of grass buildup. Maybe on the back side with an indentation, I might take a screwdriver and scrape that out a little bit, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time cleaning the blades up. I always make a quick cut across the flat back side of the blade just to clean off any burrs or depressions that are there. You don't have to make it a fine finish, and don't make it too much of an angle. Try and keep it fairly straight. When you're cutting the top or sharp side of the blade, try and cut it at either a 45-degree angle, which most blades are close to, or just match up whatever angle you already have. Make a test cut, have a look at it, see if it's close to where you need to be. If not, adjust your grip a little and move it back and forth until you've smoothed out most of the nicks. Remember, it's not a fine kitchen knife, so it doesn't have to be extremely sharp. Try and get as many nicks out as possible without going too far. You don't want to ruin the blade trying to take too many nicks out. And we're going to stack these offset blades on top of each other. You can see the small one with the tapered point goes on top. And I just kind of line the holes up like that. And we always want to make sure when you're putting the blades back on that the shiny angled side faces up. You don't know how many times I've gotten blades into the shop when I worked there where the blades were upside down and the people come in claiming that their mower didn't cut good enough. And honestly, sometimes it was one of the technicians who worked on the mower at our shop who caused the problem by not putting it on right. Other times it was the do-it-yourselfer. So I'm not going to blame anyone in particular. Anybody can make a mistake, but always want to make sure your blade, shiny side of your angle cut is facing upward. And then we're going to put the screws in, hand start them, tighten them up with the 14mm wrench, and give them each a little tap with the hammer to make sure they're nice and tight so they don't come flying off on you. A lot of people say that when you're turning the lawnmower up on its side like this to do maintenance work, it's important to take safety precautions. And back in the day, everybody always said you should pull the spark plug wire out and ground it, or at least pull the spark plug wire, maybe even the spark plug out, so there's no chance of it accidentally starting and cutting your hands off while you're working on the blades. But honestly, on a lot of these newer mowers, there's so much in the way of safety switches up on top that have to be held down and squeezed in order for it to run. There's not much of a risk of that anymore, but certainly a lot of people bypass those safety features. So if yours is like that, you certainly would want to pull the spark plug wire off and ground it away from the spark plug before you do this. This particular model has a blade clutch mechanism on it, so there's no actual physical connection between the blade and the crankshaft unless that yellow drive handle down there is pushed down and squeezed tightly to actually engage the blades to the crankshaft. So even if the motor were to start up right now, there wouldn't really be any danger of the blade spinning because of the clutch mechanism that separates them from the motor. The other thing is, when you're working on a motor and you want to tip it up on its side, you always want to tip it up so that the carburetor side, that's the side here with the air cleaner, is up in the air. If you tip it up from the other side where the muffler's up in the air, then there's a good chance, depending on the condition of the valve, unless the valves are both perfectly closed, there's a real good chance you're going to end up with a carburetor full of oil when you get done. And on these models with the paper air filter, that means your air filter will be shot and you'll have to replace it before you can run it again. So always lift it up with the carburetor side up in the air when you're working underneath, and take appropriate safety precautions.